All right, Shalom Akim. First and foremost, I'd like to give all glory and honor and praises to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahushai. I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles at Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. Peace and salutation unto the Lord's elect. This is the brother Yawasop, and the title of this lesson is going to be along the lines of use the gifts that you've been given, because each one of us has unique and distinctive gifts that the Lord has hand woven for the use of the ministry. And when He calls us into this, He gives us different gifts that might be a little bit different than other brothers. Some brothers are more seasoned. They have different gifts. Some brothers have certain roles, so we all have to play according to our role and our gifts for the purpose of lifting the body up, edifying the body. And I'm going to bring out a couple of precepts in regards to that. So the first is going to be in the book of Romans, chapter 12 and 6. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith, or ministry, let us wait on our ministering, or that he teacheth on teacheth, or that he exhorteth on exhorting, or he that giveth, let him do it with simplicity. He that ruleth with diligence, he that sheweth mercy with cheerfulness. So, this is saying right here that, we're really good in prophecy, in that realm of speaking about the mark of the beast, about certain prophecies that are supposed to come. Let us prophesy. That gift has been given to us, to those individuals. They might have a greater knowledge on that, compared to other brothers, and that's okay. You shouldn't feel some type of way because one brother might know a little bit more. The Lord is ultimately the one that gives that wisdom and understanding, and just stay patient. Just do the work, man. Just do the work and endure, because we've seen it time and time again, and it's a very fearful thing. It's like there's been men that have been in this for 20, 30 years, and then they fall out, and they've known all the breakdowns and all the precepts, and it's a very terrifying thing. So, at the end of the day, we just have to, endure till the end and have faith. That's what this is really about. Even over understanding every single breakdown, just keep it on the milk. Sometimes it's, it calls for that. But going back to prophecy, some people have prophecy. Some people, they're better at ministering. When they're on the highways and byways, they just have the Spirit hops on them to just break things down perfectly, to where they could fish for those people that are on the highways and byways. Therefore, compelling more to come in. And that's a beautiful thing, because, it says in the scriptures that, one sinner repented, the angels rejoice over 99, roughly paraphrasing. So, the Lord and the angels in heaven, they're very pleased when they see that you brought one, you brought a soul into this ministry. Ultimately, it was the Lord, but he used you as a mouthpiece to do so, which is a very beautiful thing, and, your labors are not being done in vain. And I'm going to continue with that, later on in the lesson. But, he that exhorteth on exhortation, he that giveth, let him do it with simplicity. So, some brothers, even the elder apostle Rakah is always coming out with his, daily exhortations, just lifting you in the spirit, as well as many other brothers. And we learn from that, we learn from the elders, and that, gives us that spiritual boost to go out there and to do that. And there's some brothers that their purpose in the body is to uplift you in the spirit, to fill your cup, so that when your mind goes astray, and you're returned to him, you seek him 10 times more, as it says in the book of Baruch 4:28, roughly paraphrasing. So some of these brothers that are scattered across the four corners of the earth in this ministry, they push out edifying, exhorting lessons that just give you that spiritual electric charge that you need sometimes. Sometimes, Satan is distracting you. He'd be trying to get into your head with all these demons. So, some brothers are very good at that. And, that's the gift that they've been given. And then others, they're very good with giving, whether it's alms in terms of finances, whether it's even just giving water or just making sure, brothers get rides, or you have somebody on the phone to talk to, they're giving prayers and they're giving comforting words. Some brothers are, that's their part of the ministry. And, there's been some brothers that have been given more than others in terms of finances. The Lord has blessed them with that. And, the Lord wants to see them, give back to the ministry, give back to those that are in need. Don't hold your money. Don't be a cheap ass. You know what I'm saying? So let's see this, and let's go back here. Yeah, this is the book of Ephesians 4:11 through 16. And he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some pastors and some teachers for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Hamashiach, till we all come in the unity of the faith and of the knowledge unto the Son of Yahweh, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Hamashiach, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, where they lie in and wait to deceive, but seeking the truth in love, that may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Hamashiach, from whom the whole body fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplieth, according to the effectual working in the measure of every part, making increase of the body unto edifying in itself in love. And that's Yapa, because he gave some the rank and order of apostles. You've got the beloved elder apostle Tahar on down, from the elder apostle Gabar, elder apostle Ramlab, and elder apostle Rakah. And they're always constantly coming out and edifying the flock, feeding the sheep. They've been in this long time, seasoned, and they know a lot more than we do. And in that, a lot of other brothers have came to learning under them, and they've grew up in this faith, and they've been given roles of bishops, elders, teachers, and then there's even students. And I myself, I'm a student. I'm not officially even in GMS. I've just been called by their videos and their lessons that they've been pushing out, and the fact that I'm able-bodied, I can come out here and do my part while I'm still learning, while I'm still growing, because there's a time and a place for everything. And I want to understand I want to respect my order and my role right now in the place that I'm in, because I'm still very new, still very novice in this. But all of these things end up, one way or another, pushing the body forth. And Satan hates that. But this all these different roles coming together and pushing the ministry forth is profiting. And then it says, till we come into unity, to all perfect knowledge. So we all come together. We're doing the best that we can while we're here to be, according to sound doctrine. We're not like these other people that are in these camps that they're calling on different names. They're doing these unity camps. Where this is just a side topic, but I want to mention it because it's important too. Now that we're here, a lot of these other camps and congregations, they just come up from the whim. They just get all together, and there's just a bunch of different doctrines coming in one, place of dwelling, and then that causes so much confusion. Amos 3:3, can two or more walk together lest they be agreed? You're unequally yoked, and you can't be like one of these people that they just get deceived by the craftiness of these people that appear to be big shots and machos, and Nathaniel from IUIC, or Captain Tazariak. They portray an image, but they're not really sincere. Jude 1:4, many men are corrupt and unawares, talks about that in the book of Jude 1:4. But we want to make sure that we're on sound doctrine and speaking the truth in love. And love sometimes is not like all lovey-dovey like people in this world make it out to seem. Love comes from rebuke. You tell people how it is. Yo, you're going off right now. That's not right. You're going off. And sometimes people need to hear it. I've heard it myself sometimes, and it stings in the moment, but then you realize, you know what? Well, these people really care about me, because if they didn't, they wouldn't say this. They'd just be yes men. And that's the thing about this ministry, which is beautiful, is that you're not around yes men. You're around real brothers that want to see you grow in the faith. They truly care about you. While the rest of the world doesn't believe that. They don't think that. They think that the brothers in Great Millstone might come off as harsh. They might come off some type of way, but their spirit's just getting cut up. And it talks about that in the book of Hebrews 4:12. How the word is alive and active and sharper than a two-edged sword. And Salakia for the dogs barking in the background. You know how it always is, man. Every single time we come out here and do, every single time, there's a dog barking or somebody making some sort of distraction. But it says, but speaking in truth and love, that you may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Hamashiach. So we're like many Yahweh Shais. We're trying to follow him the best that we can, even though that we're never going to be like him. There's an order and there's a ranking, and he was perfect, without sin. But we try our best to be like him. The Lord sees our efforts, and it says, from whom the whole body fitly joined together and compacted, by which every joint supplieth, according to the effectual working in the measure of every part, make it the increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. So, all of the pieces work together. It's like one big puzzle. You have the foot, you have the nose, you have the ears, you have the head, etc., so on and so forth. And, it makes one perfect body, in unity. And that's what we have to be. We have to be in unity. And, when we push our talents together and we do things in sincerity and in selflessness, not selfishness, that allows the body to push forth and grow and get even stronger and stronger. That's a beautiful thing, because then, the Lord sees that, and then he'll allow other brothers to come your way to supply you with wisdom and to help you and to lift your cup up and to help you grow in this faith. Iron sharpeneth iron. Let's bring that out really quick. Iron sharpens iron. Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. So like I said before, the Lord will see that you're doing things in sincerity, and he'll bring brothers around you to lift you up. I've been blessed through Yahweh Shemel Shai to have a, actual, blood brother that I'm related to that's in this faith, and that brought me into this faith, when the time was right, as well as the beloved brother Selah, who, we've been doing lessons with. So, the Lord will put brothers in your life. And, another thing too is, like, you might see, like, you realize when you first come into this, like, wow, these people that I knew in the world, they really ain't all that, man. It was out to, what it was out to be. Like, these ride or dies, they're not in the truth, and you really can't grow with them like that. You just can't. And you start to see that. And then the Lord will, he knows that, you need, brothers around you to help you, and he'll provide you with them, which is a beautiful thing. And I want to bring out the book of the talents in the book of Matthew. Because this is the, when we don't do this, when we don't use the talents the Lord's blessed us, he can take them away. He really can. And it angers him when he sees this. But this is the book of Matthew, and I want to bring out the whole chapter, Matthew 25. Let's bring it out. So here's the book of Matthew, chapter 25. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 of them were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them, but the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. And all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us your oil, for your lamps are out. But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be enough for us and for you, but go rather to them that sell and buy yourselves. While they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they were ready and went in to the marriage, and the door was shut. So, five of the virgins, weren't prepared while the others were. And then it says, afterward came the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he likened and said, Verily I say to you, I know you not. Watch ye therefore, that ye neither know the day or the hour when the Son of Man cometh. So, this just goes to show, like, a lot of these people in the world, they think, I could live the way that I want. I could do whatever I want. I don't gotta use my talents right now. I'm chilling. I'm lazy right now. No, man, that's not how this works. The Lord can take away your talents, and he doesn't have any, he's not a respecter of persons. So, if you want to just slack off and just bum around and do whatever you want to do, and folly or just distraction and laziness, then he's going to take it away from you. And when the time comes, he's going to say, I never knew you. And this comes down to preparation, because having talents is also, being prepared, being adequately equipped to use the talents that you've been given. So it leads me to preparation, and it says, prepare thy work without, and make fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house. Proverbs 24 and 27. And then, that's the spirit right there in Proverbs 6 and 6. I was literally about to go to that one next. One of y'all by Shemel Shai. But Proverbs 24 and 27, prepare thy work without, and make fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house. So, we prepare ourselves beforehand, before we go out in the field, just like we go on the highways and hedges, just like we do lessons, we prepare. Sometimes we're in the spirit, it's on the fly, the spirit will lead us in the right direction, but sometimes we're thinking about the lessons, we're preparing, we're learning from the elders that are above us and that are more sound and prepared. And we use that preparation to carry out our own lessons. We're not just winging it and just, doing things, willy-nilly. That's not how this is. We got to be prepared to use the talents. It's just like a UFC fighter. A UFC fighter can have all the talent. You can have all the gifts. You can be strong. You can have good wrestling. You can have really crisp stand-up on the feet. His high IQ. But if he's not using his fight IQ and he's not preparing, he's come up with a game plan, he's going to go into the fight, he's not going to be prepared. This we got to be prepared with along with the talents and with faith. Okay? So, you don't want to be like, Proverbs 6 through 8, go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider the ways and be wise. So you don't want to be a sluggard. You don't want to be like the ant. The ant, is prepared. I saw an ant, man, side topic, but I saw an ant pick up a huge piece of kibble that was left outside all by himself, and he dragged it. And then, he went back for another one, and the other ants realized that, and they helped him, and they were just preparing beforehand. And that's the same thing when we help our brothers out, when we sharpen each other's iron, we all become prepared, when it's being done according to true doctrine and sincerity. But I want to go back to the book of Matthew, and then it says, for the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. And that he received the 5 talents, went and traded the same, and made them 5 other talents. And likewise, he that had received 2, he also gained 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged it in the earth and hid the Lord's money. So that's saying right there, these men, that were given, 5 and 2 talents, they multiplied them. They might have been, really sound in exhortation, and then later down the line, they, acquired the gift of prophecy and the ability to understand prophecies deeper or certain breakdowns deeper. And that was given over time by them using the talents that they've been given by the Lord already. The Lord saw that they were, equipped to handle the talents, and they were pushing it out and being generous. They weren't holding them for themselves. They weren't selfish. They weren't hiding them in a napkin. And because of that, he rewarded them with more, because the Lord is the one who giveth wisdom. It says, pray and you shall receive wisdom and understanding. But it says, that he that received one hid it and dig it in the earth and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth with them. And that he that had received the 5 talents came and brought forth 5 other talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto them, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things, and I will make thee a ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. So, he saw that they utilized, and they were, they were faithful and good with the talents that they've been given, like we mentioned before. And then that's the way that the Lord's with us when he sees that we're good and faithful with what he's given us, even if it's something small, even if it's a small role, he'll allow us to grow more. It's a beautiful thing. It says, then which he had received 1 talent and came to the Lord, Lord, I knew that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou not hast sown, gathering where thou not hast strawed, and I was afraid, and I went and hid thy talent into the earth. Lo, there thou that is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knowest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather not where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my own coming I should have received my own with usury. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto them which had 10 talents. For unto every one that hath had shall be given, he shall have for unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from one that hath not shall be taken even that which he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant to outer darkness, there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. When the Son of Man shall come into his glory, and the holy angels with him, then shall sit he upon them throne of his glory. So, that says right here that that's basically saying that right there, like if you're not using the talents, that you've been given, the Lord's going to take them away from you. He will just strip them away from you because, like I said, the Lord's not a respecter of persons, and, he wants you to be diligent and do the work. He doesn't want you to be lazy. He doesn't want you to be slothful, okay? So use the talents that you've been given, okay? And I'm going to, let's go back to see. I want to end off with one more precept. Let me see. Okay, let's bring this out. This is the book of Romans 12:3 through 12:8. For I say to the grace given unto me that every man is among you not to think of himself more highly than he ought to be, but to think soberly according to Yahweh hath dealt to every man the measure of faith. For as we have many members of one body, and all the members have not the same office. So that's just saying, there's many members of the body, but not everybody has the same role, the same room. Everybody has a different part of this walk, different tailor-made burdens, and we're not supposed to think of ourselves as more highly than one another. Because like I said, the Lord's not a respecter of persons. He might see that, brother's been in it for a long time, but if he's disrespecting younger brothers that are sincere, the Lord can be like, nah, that's not cool, man. It's not cool. And the book of Hebrews talks about that. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for many have, entertained angels unawares. And, that just goes to show you, like, dealing with somebody in the street, for example, you're on the highways and hedges, you're doing a lesson, somebody comes and asks a question, and then maybe they were sincere and you acted in the flesh, and then, maybe, who knows, that could have been an angel. But continuing on, so we, being many, are one body of Hamashiach, and every one members to another, having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith. Our ministry, let us wait on the ministering, so that he teacheth on teaching, or that he that exhorteth on exhortation. He that giveth, let him do it with simplicity. He that ruleth with diligence, let him shew with mercy with cheerfulness. So I already brought that precept out before, but I want to reiterate that, because that's the first one that I brought out, and we're going to end with that. So like I said, Akim, these gifts that you've been given, you use them to the best of your ability, and be thankful and grateful for them, because you're in this truth. Okay, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, being in this truth and enduring till the end. And it leads me to this last precept, which came to my mind now. This is very important, because you don't want to be like these people that say they know it, they have the knowledge and understanding, but they're not doing anything with it. James 2:14, what thou would profit, my brethren, thou a man say he hath faith and not have works, can faith save him? If a brother or sister be naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you say unto them, depart in peace, be warmed and filled, notwithstanding that ye have given not those things which are needful to the body, what thou it profit? Even so, faith, if it has not works, is dead alone. Yes, a man say, thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me my faith without thy works, and I will show you my faith with my works. Thou believest that there is one God, thou dost well, but the devils also believe and tremble. But what thou know, O vain man, that faith without works was dead. So, saying there, I'll show you, I believe too. I'll show you my works of faith. I'll show you faith with my works, and you can show me your faith without works, and let's see which one's, better. And that just goes to show you, what are you going to do? You come into this knowledge and understanding, you're just going to hide it? You're going to be like one of those guys that don't say nothing, that don't edify, that just say, oh, I'm in the truth. Well, what are you doing with it? You're gonna help others by helping them grow and bringing them to the truth, or you're just going to be silent about it and be, zip your mouth? What good is that? You're just like that other guy hiding your talents, because you could do something. If you're not ready to go out on the highways and hedges, you could do lessons. If you're not ready to do lessons yet, you could still learn. You could still maybe provide scriptures that, pertain to what the lessons are about, or you can pray with brothers. Some brothers are very good at praying for other brothers and helping them uplift them in the spirit, or even giving alms in the simplest way. You see a brother struggling, even if it's something small. Because it talks about that in the scripture, the woman that gave, Yahweh Shai saw that, and he was like, you know what, this is a bit better than people that have. Let me bring that out right now, actually, but that's just going to say, you gotta have faith with works and be diligent, And speaking about alms, just as I mentioned before, you don't have to have a lot to give alms or to just give back. This is Mark 12:41, and Yahweh Shai sat over against the treasury and beheld how people cast money into the treasury, and how many that were riches casted much. And there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in much 2 mites, which make a farthing. And he cast him the disciples, saying unto him, verily I say unto you that this poor widow hath cast more in than all they which have cast into the treasury. For all they cast of their abundance, but she of her want did cast all that she had, even all of her living. So, that's beautiful, man. Very emotional too, to, just see that, because the woman had barely anything. She had nothing, barely anything to make ends meet, and she gave that alms, and Yahweh Shai saw that, which is a beautiful thing. And it brings me to the ointment, another precious ointment given Bible. Matthew 26. Now, when Yahushua was in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, there came on to him a woman having an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and poured it on his head as he sat at the meat. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, "To what purpose is this waste?" So, they were like, well, what are you going to waste this? This is perfume. We could sell this for a lot of money. But it wasn't about that, all right? It continues to say, "For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor." But when Yahushua understood it, he said unto him, "Why trouble thee the woman? For she hath wrought up a good work upon me. For that ye have the poor with me always, but ye have not always. For in that she hath poured on this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial." And it says, "Verily I say unto you, wherever the gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall be also this, that this woman hath be told for a memorial of her." So, look, she did something like that, and everybody else was like, "What are you doing? Why are you going to do that?" And that whether it was a small act or a big act, from the woman that gave all that she had to this, woman, Mary, given, from this woman giving all that she had, and it was seen as a great act among the Lord, and he made sure that was put in the scriptures so that everybody else can see that as an example. And this is why we have to speak about her and let people know, because this is one of the greatest acts of alms that was given. So with that being said, Akim, use the talents that the Lord has given you, whether it's small or large, okay? Use them because they profit the ministry. Okay, it's very important. And with that being said, I want to end off this lesson. I pray and hope that you found this edifying and exhorting. I want to give all the glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushai, Ba'ashim, Rakakadash, Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahushai. Double honors to my elders and apostles at Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. Peace and salutation unto the Lord's elect. Spell yo, what's up?